Okay guys, we are moving on to the third way of solving a quadratic equation or function, and that is the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula will work with any quadratic, especially ones that can't be factored, as in they don't factor perfectly and you end up with a decimal point, which we haven't really seen before, but you will here in just a second. Okay, so you're using the form ax squared plus bx plus c, and you're taking the a, b, and c and taking those numbers and plugging them into a formula, which is negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a. Okay? So basically, one of the vocabulary words that we did last week or that I added to Quizlet was discriminant. And the discriminant, this will make sense now, are the numbers that are underneath the radical sign. Okay, all of these up here too. Okay? And what the discriminant does is it tells you if you have 2 real roots, 1 real root, or none. Okay? And the way it does that is if we go ahead and solve or simplify what's under the radical sign, you'll either end up with a whole number above 0, which means there's 2 real roots, a 0, which means there is 1 real root, it means it just touches the x-axis, or a negative number, which means there are no real roots, it never touches the x-axis. It would look something like this, where it has no real roots. It would probably be something like this, where it's above the x-axis or below it, okay? And so when the discriminant's 0, that's where what we talked about last week, when it just like barely touches the x-axis at one point. There's one answer to it. And then if it's greater than 1, then there will be 2 roots. Okay? All right. So basically what you do is you determine what is a, b, and c, and you plug those numbers into the quadratic formula. You solve the discriminant portion, which is the portion underneath the radical sign, okay? Then you create 2 problems, and the reason you create 2 problems is because you see a plus and a minus sign here. What that means is that I have to create a problem that is negative 10 plus this over 2 times 2 and negative 10 minus this over 2, because those are our 2 roots. Those are the 2 places where the parabola crosses the x-axis. Okay? So we can go about going ahead and solving this. Okay? So this is in this form, ax squared, oops, I forgot my squared here. There we go. Ax squared plus bx plus c, where 2 is a, 10 is b, and 11 is c. So if you notice, the formula is negative b. So if my b is positive 10, I need to make it negative 10. Okay? Then plus or minus b squared, which is 10 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 2, times 11, which is c, all over 2 times a, which is 2. Now we're going to solve for the discriminant, or what is underneath the radical sign first. And we end up with, let me actually use a different color. Use pink. Okay, so we'll simplify. I've got then 10 squared is 100, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 11 is 88, minus 88, equals the square root of 12. Okay, so my 2 problems are going to be this. I'm going to have negative 10 plus the square root of 12 over 4, because 2 times 2 is 4. And I'm going to have negative 10 minus the square root of 12 over 4. Now if you're asking, well, what do I do first? Do I divide 12 by 4 or 2 by 4? If you remember from our very first unit at the beginning of the year, when we did order of operations, PEMDAS, if you recall, this division bar acts as a grouping symbol. It means that whatever's on top needs to be done first. Okay, so I've got negative 10 plus the square root of 12 over 4. What that simplifies to is this. Square root of 12 is approximately 3.46. You may use a calculator with this, that is okay. So I have then negative 10 plus 3.46 divided by 4, okay? Simplifies to negative 10 plus 3.46 is going to be negative 6.54 over 4, which simplifies then to negative x equals negative 1.63, approximately negative 1.63. I did round those. Okay, and that will be okay too. If you do that, I will be, of course, lenient with grading this. If you get a tenth off or a 100th off, I'm not gonna kill you over it, or kill your grade rather. Okay, so now that's the first root, is x is approximately negative 1.63. So the second problem is we have negative 10 minus the square root of 12, which is 3.46, okay, over 4, okay. What that ends up being is negative 10 minus 3.46 is going to be negative 13.46. Is going to be negative 13.46 divided by 4. And the answer there is going to be approximately negative 3.37. So x is then again approximately negative 3.37. Okay? And those are our two roots. That is saying that the parabola crosses the x-axis at negative 1.63 and negative 3.37. Okay? I want to do one more problem with you all, and that is to show you what it looks like when there is only one root. Okay. So the example 2. And also to show you how we plug negative numbers into the quadratic formula, because all of our numbers A, B, and C on the first example were all positive. It's not hard. You've done it before, like when we did slope back in the fall. Okay, so example 2, we will have 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. Okay, so that being said, 4 is A, negative 20, remember you take the sign with the number, is B, okay, and then 25 is C. So now we can plug all of our numbers into the quadratic formula and solve it. Okay, so remember it's negative B, so negative B means I'm going to have negative 20. Okay, this is part of the formula. Okay, and then plus or minus the square root of b squared. B is going to be negative 20 squared minus 4 times 4 times 25 all over 2 times 4. Okay? So, yes, and double negative means it's a positive. A negative, just like in grammar, a double negative means a positive. If you don't got nothing, then it means you have something. So, I'll go ahead and change that and make that to be a positive 20. Okay? Now let's go about and start simplifying this. So again, my discriminant is the portion here under the radical sign. I'm going to start working that out. Negative 20 squared means negative 20 times negative 20. And negative times a negative is always a positive. So I end up with positive 100. I'm sorry, why did I say 100? I meant 400. Positive 400, okay? Then minus 4 times 4 times 25. Well, I could do 4 times 4, which is 16 times 25. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So because these are all linked with multiplication, I'm going to do it in a different order. 4 times 25 is 100. 100 times 4 is 400. So I have 400 minus 400. Let's take the square root of that, and it ends up being square root of 0. So my problem then changes to 20 plus or minus 0 over 2 times 4, which is 8. 20 plus or minus 0 over 8. Well, obviously 20 plus 0 is the same as 20 minus 0, so therefore that means I'm only going to have one answer. That is going to be 20 divided by 8, which is 20 over 8, which is 2.5. Ends up being 2 and 4/8. Okay, so again, what this would look like is, so my only x point is 2.5. Okay, and so if I graph this, it would look something like this. See, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and then it would open upward like this. It would only touch the graph at one point. Okay, so again, be very careful with this. This is not that hard. You just have to be cautious when you plug your numbers into your formula, because like you have the double negative here, you have to make sure that you're using your integer rules correctly. Okay, that's all for today. You can go ahead and start your assignment now.